Today is Tuesday, October 12th, 2004. My name is Ellie Gettinger, and I am interviewing Ludwig Kahn for the Milwaukee Jewish Historical Society. Mr. Kahn, if
To the best of my knowledge, our family genealogy was recorded in 1770 in Warfelden, Kreis, Groß-Gerau, Hessen, Germany. My great-grandfather Solomon Kahn was born in 1770 in Warfelden. His wife's name, my great-grandmother, is unknown. Their son, my great-grandfather Jacob Kahn, was born in 1818 in Warfelden. Married to my great-grandmother Edel Hirsch, born 1823. My grandfather David Kahn was born 1847. Was married to Teresa Hirsch, born July 10, 1854. This marriage produced 5 children: Siegfried, Emma, Johanna, Rudolf, and Albert. After her death, my grandfather remarried. Second wife was my step-grandmother, Eva Selig, who was the only grandparent from the Kahn family known to me, with very pleasant, warm feelings. The offspring from the second marriage were Sally, Carl, Augusta, Max, and Elsa.
can I ask a question?
Yeah, we
Yes.
need to have an interview. Interviews are much better.
I know, but Kathy knows that this is, in terms of it, just from the names that you're listing, it sounds like your grandparents were fairly assimilated or involved in German society.
Yes.
Would you say, were they involved in the reform movement in Germany, or, as far as?
Well, we were actually almost Orthodox.
Really?
We had a small synagogue. We only had 4 families, which was listed later on.
Okay.
And we only had service on the high holidays, when we brought in from Frankfurt millionaires. Those were mostly Polish immigrant Jews who lived in Frankfurt. They would stay with the 4 families, so we would have a high holiday service.
So you guys would put on the service for these,
We had a small
Rich,
synagogue.
wealthy.
We had a small synagogue, yes.
okay. But it wasn't part of like the German reform movement at all?
No,
It was-
no, we were Orthodox.
Okay.
We had servants who turned the lights on Shabbos. We didn't do any work on Shabbat.
And sermons were in Hebrew or in German?
The service were in Hebrew.
Definitely an Orthodox Jew?
Yes.
If you want to, and where do you come into this story?
Okay, we keep on going. My mother was born in Schaffheim, Germany, to Leopold and Helen Lehmann. I remember my grandmother Helen, but did not know my grandfathers. At age 6, I took a photo of both grandmothers with a cheap box camera, picture which today is beautiful. This is it right here.
Okay.
Did your grandmothers lived close to you when you were growing up?
Very close, yeah.
Did either of them live with you, or?
They came to visit every so often. But my father's mother, my grandmother, the Kahn family, lived across the street from us.
Oh, okay.
So it was very close. My father was born in Warfelden, May 6, 1884. My mother, November 4, 1892. Father died November 12, 1953. Mother, June 15, 1970, in Milwaukee. My sister Trude was born in Schaffheim, April 21, 1917, and died February 6, 1998. My brother Ted was born January 30, 1921. I myself, Ludwig, was born January 26, 1920. I believe that my mother moved back to Schaffheim, where Julie was born during the First World War, while father served in the Wehrmacht.
Can you describe what the Wehrmacht is?
The Wehrmacht was the German army.
Mm-hmm. What division was he in? What?
What division, I don't know. But my father served with 6 brothers in the German army.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of them received the German highest decoration. One uncle, Max Kahn, had the Iron Cross First Class, which was the reason he was released from concentration camp. But then he was rearrested,
If you want, there's Kleenex.
put in restraints and poisoned. At age 6, I attended public school. My teacher's name was Lera Burhan, was firm, did not spare the rod on some occasions, and our seats or our hands quite painful. Once a week, Lera Burhan would visit our home for a 1-hour piano lesson, which I hated as much as my teacher.
Was the school that you went to, was it a Jewish school or was it, it was a public
German
school?
public school.
And most of the kids were,
There were no Jewish schools, no.
and were most of the kids Jewish or non-Jewish?
No, no. After the lesson, the standard procedure, mother served him a glass of brandy and a cigar.
Piano
I do-
teacher?
Pardon?
She served your piano teacher a glass of brandy and a cigar?
After the piano lesson, he did get a glass of brandy.
What
and
did
a
you
cigar.
get for, what was your reward for the piano lesson?
I had really had nothing. A little knowledge, perhaps. After 4th grade, no, I forgot there's something else before that. I remember at age 8, I wrote a small article in a savings bank contest about saving. I won a prize of 5 marks in the savings account.
Did you save the 5 marks?
Sorry,
Did you save the 5 marks?
I put it in the savings account. We built it up.
So-
After 4th grade, at age 11, I was enrolled in Ludwig Real Gymnasium in Darmstadt. My sister Trudy, 3 years my senior, attended Elisabeth Real Gymnasium, also in Darmstadt. It had not been too easy for our parents financially, tuition and rail fare. We left our home at an early hour, bicycled to Klein-Gerau, 2.5 kilometers, parked our bikes close to the railroad station in an old barn where we frequently encountered an intoxicated man. We were afraid. It took approximately a half an hour train ride to Darmstadt. Then we walked a half an hour to our respective schools. Brother Ted and I belonged to the Deutsche Turner Athletic Club, gymnastics and team sports. And not too frequent out-of-town contests, this club would arrange for us to eat at Jewish homes.
So, the club itself was not Jewish, but
It was
they
the
would,
German National German Club.
but they took,
Shows you right here, this is it right here. No, that is not it, this is it.
Ah.
Die Deutsche Turner,
and what sports, team sports did you do?
all kind of.
All kind?
Yeah.
What did you feel was your strength? Your,
High jumping, I think, was always the best one. The fact is I received 92 points in one contest, and the next one I only got 77 points. Brother Ted and I belong to the Deutsche Turner Athletic Club Gymnastic and Team Sports.
mhm.
And not too frequent out-of-town concerts, this club arranged for us to eat at Jewish homes. Then things changed. Hitler took over the German Reichstag Chancellery from Paul von Hindenburg on January 30, 1933.
You were 12 at the time?
33, I was 13 years old. I was born in 20. My brother was 12 years old.
How abrupt were the changes as far as
Well,
going from?
First of all, which I come to, on May 1st is a German holiday.
Mhm.
Hitler was in government since January, that's 3 or 4 months already. Ted and I belonged to the Drum and Bugle Corps. I played a solo. Ted played a flute. We had a march on this parade with hundreds of German troops, not troops, actually they were SS,
Mhm.
black shirts, and SA Sturmabteilung brown shirts with swastika flags. Then things changed.
When Hitler was running for office, and I understand he took over and it was not maybe the best election, to say the least. Do you remember your family talking about implications of things that were to come?
Hitler was running, there was a lot of battles going on between the fascists and the communists. My father once said hello to some people who drove by on a bicycle. Be friendly, you say hello. He was arrested for being involved with communism, which he wasn't, but he was released. Things were tough. They put a bomb in our wall one night.
So there was clearly.
They threw the grandmother down the steps. It was tough. So we decided we left Germany and in 1936.
In 1936? What sort of changes happened from 1933? Can you describe kind of the change in your lifestyle from 1933 to
The
1936?
Jews were boycotted and became very hateful.
And at
You
school?
can't imagine it. Even before the Kristallnacht, the German neighbors couldn't be friends with you anymore.
And what happened? Because you were at this public school. What happened? What happened?
Well, I at this time went to Real Gymnasium, which I mentioned here, but I had to leave the school and I went to a trade school. And I didn't stay there very long because one day, I should say, two SS uniformed students sat behind me, pulled my hair, and I hit them back. They didn't go back.
So in 1936, your family came.
Ted and I came in December 1936, yes. My family, parents and sister came a year later, early 38.
Where did you come to?
We came to New York. It's all listed.
Okay.
We had enough spending money for one meal on the Pullman train from New York to Chicago. I will write my life story to create a legacy for my family as a document. This writing begins December 1936 when I arrived with my brother Ted from Germany in New York. Ted was 15 and I was 16 years old. We were not allowed to bring currency out of Germany. Only a small amount of pocket money, just enough for one meal on the Pullman train from New York to Chicago. We were met by cousin Henry Kahn and his brother-in-law Hans Seligman, whose sister Ilse, also aged 16, immigrated with us. In 1936, right after the Depression, the American economic condition, to say the least, had been difficult, with large unemployment. We lived with an uncle and aunt Siegfried and Frieda Kahn, who arrived only 2 years earlier. They could not support us. We had to work to support ourselves, but due to our young age, we attended Milwaukee Vocational School 1 day a week.
Can I ask a question? Two, actually. Did you know any English when you came?
I had 3 years of English, but it took a time before your ears can pick it up and transmit it to your mind. I
Just
knew a little.
the speech and how fast things can go in a different. And the other question is, how did you get from Chicago to Milwaukee?
I've just read this to you. Our cousin Henry Kahn and his brother-in-law Hans
Oh,
Seligman
They were.
picked us up in Chicago.
Okay, and they already lived in Milwaukee.
And it-
How did they get to Milwaukee?
Well, due to the fact that Henry, who was my cousin, his older brother left Germany at a much earlier age. He was only 17 with his friend that came, although knew nobody. And he married into a department store, quite wealthy. And
Called
that's
what?
how quite a wealthy family.
Okay.
This is how I was able to bring 43 people over here.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So he brought this cousin brought the entire family?
He brought 43 members from the Kahn families.
That's
Well, some couldn't get out. I had one aunt, the youngest aunt. She stayed with her mother, was elderly. We had a picture of. But she wouldn't let her young daughter go either because she was too young. So they perished. And while they were at the concentration camps, they made eye contact with one of their former neighbors, who was a Nazi, as they walked into the gas chambers. This is how we found out from him.
Wow. He contacted.
Just eye contact. Be contacted. one of the distant cousins went to Germany a few times to do some research. I was invited to come to and pay for my fare, but I told them on a videotape, the wounds are too deep, I will never step on German soil. We had to work to support ourselves, but due to a young age, we attended Milwaukee Vocational School 1 day per week. I had attended Real Gymnasium in Germany and would have loved to further my education. I was fortunate to escape in my life. One doesn't live as one wishes, but as one has to. Our cousin Henry had been able to find work for my brother Ted in a greenhouse and for myself in a meatpacking house. I was exposed to an environment shocking, difficult to me to reveal my innermost psychological impact on my life, observing the slaughter of livestock. I had tears in my eyes when I saw the method of slaughtering calves in such an inhuman way. The following will be very upsetting to readers, so I apologize. Want me to read it?
Yeah.
The killing floor was equipped with a long barbed meat hooks. Some butchers put a rope around one hind leg of the calf, others would just take the calf, put the knee into the hook. The calves were crying for their life till the butchers finally cut their throat. I cannot eat veal to this day.
How long did you work in the packing plant?
From 19 till I got to the service till 1941. After a short period of time, I was transferred to the shipping room to process orders for delivery. The packing house slaughtered several animals kosher for the Milwaukee Orthodox Jewish population. During my time in the packing house, there existed approximately 10 kosher meat markets. There was always a shortage of tongues and, During my time in the packing house, there existed approximately 10 kosher meat markets. There was always a shortage of kosher tongues and livers. Having been raised Orthodox, it was shocking to me seeing the owners of the company in the large walk-in cooler taking non-kosher livers and tongues and being counterfeited with a metal seal and marking pen in Hebrew letters as a kosher certification.
So they were forging kashrut, the hechsher?
It's getting worse yet. Work in the shipping room, I was called upon many occasions to make deliveries. It was difficult for me to make deliveries of non-kosher meats to kosher markets delivered to the outside alley boxes.
Can you say that again?
Empty boxes in the alley where you put the non-kosher meat in. For them to take any time they felt like it, and there was no inspector. Being the youngest, newest, and possibly the cheapest employee, I frequently was called and assigned to the most difficult chore, delivering a load of 15 cattle and 2 bulls to the Sheboygan Sausage Company, known for the famous summer sausage. That I did not have a driver's license had none been considered. 15 cattle equals 60 quarters of beef. Average weight approximately 150 pounds. Bull quarters approximately 250 pounds. I would bag up my truck to a small hill leading to the receiving room door, pick up 1 quart of beef, walk up to the receiving room, step on a box, stretch myself to hang the beef on a hanging scale. When the weight was measured again, I would step onto the box, unhook the quarter beef, walk down a flight of stairs, and open the heavy freezer door to the boning room. The heavy boot quarters were left on the main floor. This method has been improved by rails leading to a truck with a rail scale. We're already halfway through that. The owner of Sheboygan Sausage Company, Gus Schmidt, expressed on several occasions his desire to adopt me. He had no sons. Had I done this, I would own a big sausage factory today. I might have married a nice German girl in Sheboygan.
So what did you tell Mr. Schmidt about, your parents had come over to the U.S. at this point?
Well, he just felt sorry for me, period. On my first return trip from Sheboygan, I got lost, ended up on Lake Drive. No trucking allowed. The motorcycle officer stopped me. I had no driver's license. An additional violation. But the officer talking to a skinny kid with a bloody coat, who did not speak English well, showed a sympathetic look, gave me direction, and wished me well. Within 1 year, I had been promoted to sales, mainly to call upon German trade. My brother Ted obtained a job working in the greenhouse. On Sundays, Ted was able to use one of the dump trucks to haul manure from the packing house to the greenhouse. The animal manure was stored in a large basement holding area, infested with rats, without exaggeration, some as large as a cat. It was difficult, and it was a difficult and dirty job, which added to our income. Within 1 year, Ted and I earned enough to furnish a flat on North 46 in Vine Street, a home for our family, parents, Rudolph, Berta, and my sister Trude.
How many people lived in the flat?
2 parents, my sister 3, and Ted and I is 5.
And how many rooms were there?
We had 3 rooms.
3 rooms?
No, we had 2 bedrooms, a dining room, a living room, and a kitchen. Yeah.
Compared to your house in Germany, was it, or your
I
living?
didn't take a picture. We had a big house. We had servants. I believe I did mention my parents and sister arrived in 1938. At age 60, when I arrived in America, I had to work to support myself, but attended school 1 day a week as required. It was there that I met some Italian immigrants who had left Mussolini's fascist government. I wanted to start a Jewish soccer team, but there were not enough qualified Jewish players. The Italian immigrants were happy to join my team. Please see the picture.
Right here.
One more.
Mr. Kahn, which one is you?
I was in the middle of the Gold Guard.
This is you?
This is me right here, yeah.
He's the goalie.
Hold on, didn't we do it again? Great.
I wanted to start a Jewish soccer team, but there were not enough qualified Jewish players. The Italian immigrants were happy to join excuse me, my team. I contacted the Wisconsin Football Commissioner, Richard Falk from the Ford Corporation, to talk about forming a team. At age 16, it wasn't easy for me to meet with him. He invited me to meet him at the Blanken Hotel, which at this time had a large, fancy restaurant.
Where was it?
Blanken Hotel was right downtown in North Water and Wisconsin in the corner.
It was just very fancy.
Very fancy. Well, I walked there and had me paged. First time in my life I've been paged.
Mr. Kahn, please come to the.
He invited me to meet him at the Blanken Hotel. He had me paged. We had a very pleasant luncheon meeting, and Mr. Falk offered to finance a team. Managing and training was up to me. The team was called the American Stars. We were not a very good team, as we did not have much time to train and practice. But we were good enough to win our first game against the German team from Sheboygan. We won a trophy.
Was there any sort of sense, because I'm guessing a lot of the people on your team were immigrants, yes?
Mhm.
With the makeup of your team, mostly immigrants, mostly people who were from Milwaukee? I know you said there were Italians. So was there a sense of when you beat the German team, was there any kind of divide? No.
When you're in sports, after all, the German team in Sheboygan, even though they were German ancestry, they've been Americans. Really. And since we were immigrants ourselves, we had no right to have any animosity. In fact, my brother and I were in the service. Our parents couldn't own a radio. They had to turn the radio in. German nationals.
Oh.
Anyway, they finished this year. first game against, we won a trophy. During the Second World War, our team was inactive. After the war, I joined the Hungarian Tigers here in Milwaukee. The team sponsored by Richard Rich First. That's the fur company. They sponsored Richard Rich, the Hungarian soccer team. We
Okay.
played with them.
Were you goalie for them as well? You were goalie all along?
Yeah,
That was your
it was my special.
Okay.
That was good.
You had a lot of stops?
As I got older, I became a horseman, riding in Racine over fences and across country with a club that was called the Sunday Morning Gracies. Our club included many of my friends. Picture I should show you right here. This is one of my horses I rode.
Do you have a glare on that, or?
Another one.
That's good.
And this one's bigger, so it might be easier to.
Yeah, just look further back,
Did you have any experience riding from your
Well,
childhood?
in Europe, we were, my father was a livestock dealer,
Uh-huh.
animal feed broker, grain broker, and also farmer. We had animals. But I didn't really become interested till Diana was old enough to get pony rights. We rode for many years. After riding, we would meet at each other's homes or even at restaurants which we reached on horseback for brunch and drinks. And we told many lies, I should say falses, or bragging how high a fence we rode over.
It's 10 feet tall.
On Thanksgiving, we would ride in our pinks. It was a grand affair. We dressed formally and served hot clock and finger food. I also rode with the Mercury Hunt Club, the Fox Hunt Club in northern Illinois. Now I'll tell you about my military experience. Want to
Okay.
hear about this?
Yes, I would love to hear about
The
it.
soldier's story. I was inducted into the Army December 9, 1941, 2 days after Pearl Harbor. After attending basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky, I was assigned to General George E. Patton's 2nd Armored Division Medical Battalion. During the Carolina maneuvers, I was elected to go back to Fort Benning, Georgia as cadre. Cadre means officially to help build a new division.
Okay.
As cadre to activate a new division called the 10th Armored Division. Then, due to my German language skill, I was sent to Intelligence Reconnaissance Officers Candidate School. Yet one day I was rejected, I assumed for being a German national. The next day I was transferred to Camp Barkley, Texas, to the Medical Administrative Corps Officers Candidate School. At that time, all graduate officers were being sent to the infantry school. In Georgia, I did not want to be a second lieutenant in the infantry. They were expendable. I tried to resign and go back to the 10th Armored Division, but request was denied. The only choice I had was to flunk out, which I did. I was then sent to Pittsburgh Replacement Depot in Oakland, California, and from there to the 112th Medical Battalion, up to 37th Ohio National Guard Infantry Division, located in New Zealand. I joined my new division in the Fiji Islands. From there we went to Guadalcanal, New Georgia, then Bougainville and the Solomon Islands. Then following a 31 voyage on a troop ship, we were part of the invasion of the Philippines Islands, Luzon. We landed at the Lingayen Gulf. I was not welcome in the 37th National Guard Division. I was an outsider with a high rank.
Is that because you had trained separately from them?
No, the National Guard divisions come from like Wisconsin. They all live in Milwaukee, live in Racine, Kenosha. They're buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to have an outsider coming with the rank of staff sergeant, which I had this time. They resent that. I was an outsider with a high rank, and added to that, I was Jewish. We had 2 Jewish privates in the Company B, 112th Medical Battalion, Private Malls and Private Gottlieb. I was annoyed when Private Gottlieb was called a Jew boy. We had a Jewish company commander was a doctor, Captain Dickman, who didn't care about anything. He let me do all the, anything besides sergeant, you take care of it. He gave me once a month his liquor ration. He was a nice person though, but he didn't know what was going on. He didn't care.
He wasn't maybe the best leader.
None at all. We'll come to this back later on. You probably a question Gottlieb asked him why he then let them call him Jew boy. He replied, it started in Ohio at our training. I don't mind it, but I did. But because I was not too popular, I had to go slowly. The company soldiers were old friends from home, comrades, and I was an outsider. As we moved further north into the Kagain Valley, fighting became more severe. Japanese artillery were dug in mountains and well concealed. One night during heavy shelling, excuse me, our officers disappeared. I took over the command foxhole, covering myself with the captain's mattress. He always kept within to be comfortable.
The captain's what?
Mattress.
Ah. He took his mattress into combat? Okay.
Well, we had trucks in.
Everyone else took cots into combat and he had a mattress?
Sleep like a dog. Anyway, fight became when the Japanese artillery were dug in the mountains and well concealed. One night during heavy shelling, our officer disappeared. I took over the command foxhole with the captain's mattress. I had later some business to attend at battalion headquarters. There, the sergeant major showed me that both our missing officers had written up commendations for themselves for heroism under attack, under fire.
And they weren't there the entire time?
They've been back. Well, you're a doctor that didn't want to spend their life. Anyway, fire. It is difficult to imagine the stench of decaying bodies in a bridge which was bombed out, and our water point was located. The only available drinking water exposed to human decay. The stench in the air was unimaginable. The odor of the drinking water, you would even taste it in the coffee, which we couldn't drink.
How
Right.
long were you guys entrenched in this foxhole?
Well, we were on the move. We probably stayed there one day, but you had to fill up you had a 250-gallon water tank with you,
Uh-huh.
the trailer with a tank, fill the water and move it with you so you have water. But we
But you couldn't drink the water.
we emptied it out. It was horrible. Rinsed it out, and we went to a brewery and filled the tank with beer.
Good Milwaukee residents that you are.
My commanding officer requested that I call the engineers to move the water pond. They replied, "Tell your commanding officer if he has the guts, he should come and move it." But the entire situation was ridiculous because the bridge was maybe 50 yards. You couldn't move the water pond to the other side of the bridge. There wouldn't be no more enemies than there were on this side. There was a National Guard inefficiency.
Okay.
Every medical company had a portable surgical hospital team attached. We had division orders not to evacuate at night due to the treacherous terrain. One night an officer pulled up in a jeep begging for an ambulance. One of his men had been shot through the throat. I knew the orders, but I also believed our duty to save lives. I spoke to Captain Dickman and volunteered to pick up the patient. I followed the jeep. I remember crossing a riverbed. I kept my 45 caliber pistol and 30 caliber carbine on the front seat. Pick up the patient. On the return trip with the patient, I was on my own. I did find the crossing, put the gears in the four-wheel drive, but constantly I became lost. I knew the vehicle lights might attract enemy or friendly fire, but I decided I have to do one thing or the other. So I turned the lights on for a split second,
Mhm.
Thankfully, I spotted a sign leading to our area. The soldier survived.
You did.
We continued onward to Baguio, northern Luzon, in retreat for the summer retreat high up in the mountains, where we encountered very little resistance. In Baguio, I met an elderly Jewish man who had retired from the U.S. Army many years before. The Japanese wife had turned him in, while in turn the Japanese occupied his large, beautiful, luxurious villa. Now he again was the occupant. On the road to Manila was light resistance, but in Manila the Japanese were fighting house to house. Because of General MacArthur, who said, "I'll return," MacArthur's love for the Philippines, he gave orders not to use mortars or artillery. As a result, we had very heavy casualties. I recall one soldier was brought into the hospital with half his face shut off. One of our medical officers ordered to send him to the morgue section, but the major from our surgical team brought him in, worked all night and saved his life.
When someone would come in injured like this, what was your responsibility?
Well, as first sergeant, well then, you head of the litter bearers of the people in the wards
Mhm.
and the ambulance platoons too.
So you did driving. You were a driver to make sure
I
people.
was not a driver. We had orders not to evacuate,
Okay.
so I couldn't order any soldier to do this. I had to do it myself. I wanted to do it. I volunteered.
Ah, okay.
I was not a driver, no.
Sorry.
Talk about Manila. Next page. We're almost done.
I have other questions.
Yes,
Well-
please.
Oh, no. I will.
While in Manila, we were lodged at the University of Santo Tomas. There were quite a few German Jewish refugees interned in concentration camps in Manila. I put out one of the
They
rescue.
were concentration camps, not refugee camps?
Well, what do you call them? If they're refugees, they put them in a camp. It's a concentration camp or a refugee camp. If you with the Japanese, it's a concentration camp because you survive in very little.
Mhm. Okay.
Quite a few German Jewish refugees interned in concentration camps in Manila. I put out one of the rescued in a schoolroom. The Japanese had killed this very young, pretty woman's husband. She had been gang raped and had a large rifle butt wound in her head. That's why she came to us. On her cheek. She had a little girl of about 4 with her. I had a soldier bring up 2 blankets and 5-gallon can of water and key rations.
Please take a moment if you need it. But it's, for someone in my generation, it's so important that we hear these things and that we understand what happened, and
That's why I'm doing it.
I really appreciate it.
She was interrogated believed by the G2, by the intelligence.
The American intelligence?
Yeah, my eyes are out.
Take your time.
I believe they were sent to the U.S. after they were being interviewed by the intelligence. While scouring through a hospital casualty list, I found the name Eric Adler. Eric was a friend of mine from Germany. I didn't know he came out of Germany, actually. He had been shell-shocked. Our division photographer recorded our happy reunion.
So you got it? Okay. How long had it been since you'd seen
I haven't
This-
seen him ever since that time.
No, but before, when you saw him, and this was like,
I've probably seen him in 1935.
and this is
He
1940.
belonged to the same Jewish book I belonged to in Darmstadt.
Oh.
While scouting through the hospital, we had this, the bishop had it. Yeah. The war is over. Among my many awards, I received the Purple Heart.
When were you injured?
During the campaign in the earlier part. Almost done. I had an experience which I did not want to share with you, but I feel I must. This is regarding anti-Semitism in National Guard divisions. When I was made first sergeant, Corporal Keller approached me in a sarcastic tone and asked, I suppose he will give Private Maltz, who was Jewish, a promotion. My reply was, George, I never thought of it before, but this is a good idea. I will recommend it. You know, he handles all the PX, post exchange PX purchases. Another deeply disturbing experience I had, which I cannot forget, was Sergeant Motorelli, in a drunken stupor, yelled, Hitler should kill all the Jews. I replied, I would like to splatter you over the ground, but you are not worth for me getting busted. But remember, the slightest anti-Semitic remark you make, I'll see that you get a court-martial. See, I could not be too active because you're amongst 100 people from the hometowns.
Mm-hmm. And so they had a system.
Yeah, if I get shot at night, it could be the enemy.
Did
I'd use my head.
you feel
And I
like,
didn't get a captain involved either. I did my race. We had to fight a war, not amongst us.
so it wasn't the anti-Semitism? Do you feel like it was mainly from the enlisted men as opposed to
It's
the
all the way through.
officers, or just all the way endemic?
When I first had my basic training, which I didn't mention, are you off camera now?
Did you want me to be off camera?
Oh, no, you can be. When I had my
Rolling.
basic training, I was in Fort Knox, Kentucky. I was a buck sergeant then only. We did go to Louisville one night a month for steak dinner. We had to bring our own liquor with us. Our first sergeant was then National Guard, a real drunken bum. He too made anti-Semitic remarks during our dinner. The other officers, non-commissioned officers, told me not make an issue out of it. It existed. It existed. Well, the war is over, and you want me to know my rest of life after the war?
Yeah, well, when did you meet your wife?
I'm coming to that. After the war, it was difficult to find jobs. Therefore, my brother Ted and I applied for Veterans Preference Certificates to purchase merchandise from the government through the War Asset Administration. There existed a shortage of all consumer goods. We received mailings listing government releases for a variety of products. The first item we bought was a line of nurses' seersucker wraparound dresses. We purchased 600 dresses. Received inquiries to purchase them from Macy's, Gimbel, Schuster's, and other stores. We sold these dresses to Schuster's, but held back 200 units to open our first of 3 retail outlets. Our next purchase was steel fence posts from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which are sold to Sears before we even bought them. Not Sears, Sears Roebuck, yes.
Mm-hmm.
This shipment arrived on Yom Kippur from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Sears refused acceptance. And can you imagine the cost of demurrage to have 3 boxcars lined up for a week time? Because they arrived on Yom Kippur, I couldn't take any action after the holidays. It was a mistake for Sears because those posts were really in good shape. They were brand new, just a few were soiled from the Baton Rouge swampland.
Mm-hmm.
Sears refused. We had them analyzed by a laboratory,
Mm-hmm.
subject to the government's approval, and had graded them as junk metal. But that was a shame, really. They were
Because they
excellent.
were excellent fence
And
posts.
then we hauled them out in the country and sold them to farmers, and we made good money. We also sold vehicles, 2.5 ton trucks, jeeps, clothing, footwear. Whatever the government released and we thought we could use, we bought. At a later date, we purchased Goldfish Uniform Company in Milwaukee and expanded and merged together.
Did you change the name or did you?
No, we kept Goldfish separate with our U.S. surplus stores together, yeah.
Okay.
We sold uniforms to police departments. In fact, this is why I was involved with the police department, because when I attacked the Nazis, we had the Nazis marching in Racine.
Can you tell me the story about the Nazis, what you did when the Nazis were marching in Racine?
Well, on the Saturday that I'm marching in Racine, I seen this coming. I had one of my employees get me a bucket of hot water, and I took one of the uniform police department billy clubs, went after them. I got Nazis freeze, and I put the hot water in the gas, strike a match, and they took off like rabbits. But when nothing happened, they turned back on me. So one challenged me, by that time the police were there, and they said to me, "You're a Billy Coward, take off your helmet." Christ scared. I said, "Come on there, take off your helmet, you yellow bastard." So by that time the police got between us, and it took 3 officers to hold me back. I felt like Samson. Finally the sergeant says, "Kahn, watch yourself, take care of yourself, but we'll have to take you in." So that was it. So that's where I had the billy club, which we sold to police departments. Once our business had been established, I married my beautiful wife Blanche, had 2 lovely daughters, Diana and Heidi. Heidi married Reuben Elson, and now we have 4 grandsons. We have 4 handsome grandsons, Jacob, Benjamin, Shaul, and Tuvia. When I retired from the business, my wife Blanche, a medical technologist who specialized in blood banking, and I opened the Plasma Center in Milwaukee. After this endeavor, I became a real estate developer and builder. I developed Lake Charles Estates, an upscale subdivision in Caledonia, north of Racine, and built beautiful homes. I love this work best of all. I thank you.
Can I ask how you and Blanche met?
Blind date,
Blind date? Who set you up?
Jack Lisbon.
Yeah.
One of the kosher butchers, one of the good ones.
How did he know? He knew you through the packing industry, through your.
Well, when we came over here, he got to know me, and he took me around to different cons and so on. It was very nice.
And he knew Blanche, your wife.
He knew her family, yeah.
So it was a blind date that worked. And I don't know. let's
Thought
see.
we made it in 1 hour, didn't we?
You have about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, could you tell me about your involvement in Israel bonds?
Oh, I was involved since day one when they had bonds. I've been in Racine one time and the people didn't want to form a committee, so I said, "That's okay, I'll do it myself."
Okay.
In fact, I was honored by Israel bonds in the Midwest area in Illinois. I had many other honorees. I was also honored by the Jewish National Fund. I've been quite active.
What spurred your involvement? What made you feel like you needed to mobilize to become active for Israel bonds and for Israel in general, it sounds like?
What made me, I tell you, before I leave today, I want to see Miss Heilbronner.
Miss Heilbronner?
Yeah,
Oh, downstairs.
because when I see what goes on with the anti-Semites and the Muslims, I get turned off. And especially her replies. I'm very upset over when she replies. I see something, I follow it up, I do something about it. That's not the file, I got so many papers here.
I think most of this is all German.
Maybe a little bit in my bag there. If Ms. Heilbronner would read some of those items here, she would know how to reply better to the anti-Semites. I read in the Chronicle when Muslims and Christians from Wisconsin write in letters to complaints, and the answer she gets is so mild. If she would read some of those letters to the editor, which I will give her while I'm here today, she would give a better answer, because I'm a fighter, I can't stand it. I'm a fighter, I had a professor, what's his name?
Tim Crane.
Crane, no, not Crane. Who spoke at the high school. Without him out there, I got involved with that, I was ready to pick up a fight with him. I can't think of the professor's name.
So your kind of involvement with Israel and Israel activism came from this sense
I
of...
have been about here now, but I'm 85 almost.
Mhm.
I'm gonna slow down now. Keep my cool.
I think that's fair. How did it feel in 1948 when Israel became a state? What do you have any remembrances?
Of course, how did you feel? Great. Especially coming from Europe.
Have-
Jews had no place to go to.
Have you visited Israel?
Yes.
When?
Diana, about 30 years ago. But my family goes more often. I can't drive that. I can't sit that long.
Yeah, no, it's a long trip.
I had 2 back surgeries. It's too long to sit for me.
And is there, I guess, just last, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Or that,
You ask the questions. You like a copy of my history here?
yeah, I think Kathy would.
I can give you a copy.
Did you want to show that paper about the Jewish sports?
Oh,
The paper about the Jewish sports?
in Germany?
Yeah, the inquiry I had received to know about Germany, I was going to show you that, because in Germany we had such a big Jewish organization, in sport especially.
This is a newspaper about Jewish sports in Germany from 1936. And I'm going to be
You
very,
may keep them, put it in the file if you like to.
and you can see this is women's athletics.
This says the Jewish women in sport.
Jewish women in sports.
You can keep those if
Does
you
it
like.
say
Uh,
Tim,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
so you just want to ask him,
Kind of just as a wrap up, what would be your, the thing that you want to leave saying? Is there a philosophy that you've lived by? Is there something, because you've had this very amazing life, and I don't know if there's anything you want to end by saying.
I don't think that anti-Semitism will ever disappear. It's so deeply involved in the mother's bed from the Catholic religion. It's going to be almost impossible to avoid it.
So,
I like to be wrong, but I don't believe it. The Holocaust, I hope, can be prevented again. I sent a letter to the editor about 2 months ago. Can a Holocaust happen again? I don't know if you read it or not. It was in the Jewish Chronicle. But we have to have people like Hartbrenner who have to give better answers to some of those troublemakers. The letter to the editor, if you'd like to read this one section, I had it a minute ago.
right.
Critical visiting.
We did get that you're a fighter.
Work hard,
Work hard.
to save your money.
That was what you got from your your essay on savings with the 5 marks.
Yes.
Is that the point?
Diana, why don't you straighten those off for me, please?
yes.
We're off camera now.
Oh, here are the.
Maybe you don't have time now for it, I suppose. This letter to the editors, right now,
I can see.
in the Washington Post.